Journeys of Empowerment is more than a podcast. It's a place to pause and return to what feels true beneath everything that's moving. I'm Michiel Suchitrait, and here I sit with impact-driven female founders at moments where something has to shift. Not always visible, but deeply felt. We talk about those moments when direction no longer fits, when success feels different than expected, when something quieter asks for your attention. Because clarity isn't something you have to force alone. It often begins in a conversation, hearing something you've sensed, but couldn't yet name. So as you listen, notice what resonates. See what opens or becomes a little clearer. What if a rebellion is not about pushing against the world, but about refusing to walk away from what feels true inside you? In this episode, I sat down with Caroline Williams, founder of We Make Trouble, and someone who has learned again and again to choose truth over belonging. We explored what it means to grow up between cultures and never quite fit in, and how that can become a quiet strength instead of something to fix. How early independence can turn into armor, and what it takes to soften into awareness, honesty, and self-responsibility. The moment you begin to see where relationships no longer hold you, and the courage it takes to step back and rebuild trust within yourself, and how that same inner work starts to shape the systems we build, creating space where others don't have to shrink to belong. She said it without hesitation. I would rather make new mistakes than live my life afraid to live. And this one stayed with me. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is stop looking away. Let's take a breath and dive in. Caroline, welcome to Journeys of Empowerment.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that we are finally deep diving into your personal journey. And we start with the question, who are you becoming?
I hope that I am becoming the person that I have been working on all my life to be. And that is not an end state or a destination, that every day, every moment, there's something that's added to it. And maybe it doesn't make sense where it's added right at that moment or why. But in the long run, those will all be sort of the puzzle pieces. And at the end of my journey, I hope I have the moment of consciousness to look back and be like, this was a life well lived. I did what I was built for throughout it. And that will be, if I have that moment, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, I'll work it out later in another lifetime, maybe.
Are you recognizing the same as I do? I see something shifting inside of you when you're talking about this. There's something, you see a sort of smile, you see a sort of tinkling in your eyes, but also a little bit emotional.
It is because for me, I carry the people who've been in my life and the long line of troublemakers I come from. I carry them with me. And I'm aware now that statistically speaking, and the numbers, I'm not 20 anymore. So it doesn't, no one knows how long they have, but it's like you become more aware of what am I leaving behind, right? Am I leaving behind, Henry Rollins said this 2 years ago, because he's a little bit older than I am. He said, I get up in the morning now, and it's paraphrased, and he said, I think about when I leave this planet, I want to leave it a better place than it was when I came into it. And when he said that, and I've been going to see him do spoken word and perform for 32 plus years. It's been a big part of my life. It made me realize that's also something that you're not consciously maybe busy with it, but it does shape what you do and the choices that you make. And it does have a way of prioritizing what you give attention to and what you don't. And it's a richness. It allows you to love without boundaries in that sense. Like, and I don't mean boundaries like, I mean boundaries in the sense that you can just be open to the world around you. You can be open to people around you. You can take those chances on people because you've determined for yourself, what is the legacy? What am I going to leave behind? Right? And I don't need to know per se what that is. I don't need to know what happens. It's not that way, but it's the removal of the expectations of other people and society and the things that just aren't really relevant, but are made to feel as if they're really relevant because of the age that we live in.
What age are we living in?
We're living in an age where we have a tool for everything that's supposed to make us more connected, more interesting, more valued, more of everything. But it's not. It's like the further, and this is of course from a very privileged position in the global north, right? But the further we get from actually having to do things that are related to our survival as human beings, the more I think our lives start to become empty, and then they get filled, because if you don't have to worry about the daily tasks of keeping yourself healthy, alive, fed, sheltered, and all of the rest of it, you've got all of this time to get sucked into doom scrolling or into this world of 10-second content bites and all of those things. So, and you move even further away from actually what matters.
And what matters?
What matters is the fact that we are on this planet for a certain amount of time, and we are dependent on the people around us, and there are people who are dependent on us. And how are we standing in solidarity with those next door, a block away, a city away, a country away, what have you? But we have lost sight of that because we're constantly being told, or we believe, that the reality is what we can consume in terms of content. And that if we just watch this, we'll get to this, or we'll be this much more interesting, or we'll have this many people follow us, or, we'll be all of these things. But in the end, I have to ask, if you're dead, what difference does it make how many followers you have? What difference does it make in what you did while you were here? What are you leaving behind? And I think that's why I like, every time somebody comes, they announce some sort of new feature or new platform to make us all more connected. I'm like, actually, it's simply dividing us even further. It's Morea Benamu, who is a person I admire greatly. She calls it mechanizing our humanity.
Mechanizing our humanity.
Yeah.
Meaning?
Meaning that we push everything outside. So we don't order our own groceries. We don't decide what we're going to watch. Everything is, we're used to now being served. And not being served in the sense that, did I actually order this or want this? It's something is making these predictions for me or deciding for me. These are if you, I say this at home to my partner all the time, because she's like, why we don't do delivery with groceries and stuff like that. I'm like, if we cannot get our butts out the door to go and get the basics that we need to feed ourselves, there is something wrong with us. If we cannot go to a restaurant because we want to go out to eat and we have to order to have somebody bring it to us, what is wrong with us? And that's a different position than a lot of people hold. But I feel that for me, the most important part about living is the connection. And it doesn't, not all connections look the same. And not all of them are the same duration, right? But it's the random, it's the curiosity, it's the, what if this person says something, or what am I going to say in return, or how is that going to go? It's, to me, that's what I want to live in.
Before we dive into the central theme of our conversation, I have one question based upon what you said. Imagine we're on your funeral. What do you hope people would feel and say about you?
I hope people will not do the nuance dance. So, because for me, that's exhausting. I am really good at reading between the lines, but it's exhausting. Again, it's like you learn to do something. It doesn't mean you'd like to do it or you want to do it. And I hope that people will say, I wish I had seen her do this, and I'm glad I saw her do this. Right? And to fill that in any which way. And I hope that some of it would be like, where those moments where other people will be like, I don't know that you want to talk about that, or are you sure? And I hope that first and foremost, I hope that people will feel free to say what they think and they feel. And that all the emotion is welcome, whether you're mad at me for being gone, or whether you miss me, or both, or some mixture, or you're relieved, or that the freedom is there for all the emotion, because I'll hear it.
Is there as much? I need to ask a next question instead of jumping into our central theme, but not sorry. The question pops up is there in your mind and in your headspace as much space for others than for yourself?
As much space for others?
As for yourself. Because I hear now right away, and of course I had the luxury of having a pre-video call, so I've noticed that it's a lot about giving and a lot about helping and supporting many others. And I became curious, so that's my question is a little bit, of course, also based on the deep dive in our pre-video call. But where are you in the equation?
I'm in the equation, so I can say that. Probably a while ago, I wouldn't have been able to say that with that level of certainty. But I'm in the equation. And I think that, what is it that Jules Deelder said? The omgeving van de mens is de medemens. So the environment of the person is their fellow person. And I think that that's a very much part of who I am, which is interesting because I'm an introvert. So you wouldn't think that other people would then be that important. But my life and who I am is enriched because of the shared experiences and encounters I've had with others. And not all of them have been glitter and sparkle. And that would be weird if they had been. But it
would be boring.
It would be boring. But every single part of who I am is refined and crystallized through the interactions that I have with other people. And I learn so much more about myself by having those conversations or having those random moments, or because otherwise I wouldn't pay as much attention to them, because it's your own thing, right? It's your own memories, or it's your own experiences, and you don't really think about it. But when you engage with others, then those stories come to the top, and then that gives you a whole different set of insights also into yourself, and to learn yourself. So I am richer for it. I will say that I think what has changed, or know has changed over the past 18 months to 2 years, has been no longer feeling that I had to earn my feelings, right? That I had to reach a certain level of
doing instead of being.
That my feelings needed to reach an extra layer of justification before I needed to earn them, right? And I got the very sharp question where somebody asked me to clarify what I meant. They said, because it sounds to me like you're saying you need to earn the right to have feelings. Is that correct, how I'm understanding you? And I kind of shut down for a second. I was like, nope. Trying to find.
And then for sure, if you pause and reflect.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. When you put it that way, yeah, actually, yes. And they were like, well, why? And then, and I think that's, and that, so now I could say that the balance, there's more of a balance. But I learn who I am by the encounters I have with other people.
Let's unpack that more. Central theme for us today is honoring truth through rebellion. What does it mean for you, honoring truth through rebellion?
Yeah. Ooh. Aside from something that seems like it should be on this big sort of tattoo that you have, to let people know that it's coming. I think that for me, there is no other way to be. For me, honor is central to my life. But that also means going back to being raised to not looking away ever. In order to stand up for what you believe in, you have to be willing to rebel. And I think in particular, we're conditioned and messaged to go with the flow. Women also, in particular, get a lot more societal messaging about don't cause trouble, be the nice girl, take care of everything around you. Those of us who are oldest children have an extra sense of layer around that. Be an example,
Obligations, expectations, opinions.
They're looking at you. And the reality is that all of the changes that have happened throughout civilization have come because someone said to someone else, I don't believe in this anymore. I'm not standing for this. And then the next person says to them, you know what? You're right. Or I never thought about it that way. Or what does that mean? And pretty soon you start to have people who come together who are like, this system or this law or this custom or this habit is not working for us. It's working for certain people, but it's not working for us. What are we going to do about it? And resistance and rebellion take many forms. And it also has to do with where are you in the world? What is your safety? What are you facing? And all of those things. But for me, rebellion is critical to maintain my own sense of honor.
If we look back into your rich history, in your journey, where does that view come from and where did it all begin? What are the sort of, well, maybe big inflection points in your life that ultimately led you on the path to become even more you?
Well, to be fair, I have an advantage, genetically speaking, because both of my parents didn't fit in their own circles and spaces and their own lived experiences. So I am the product of two nonconformists. And so I had an advantage there. Mm-hmm. Didn't always feel like it growing up. It was kind of like we were like the weird family, because there were 4 kids. My dad was in the Navy. My mom was Dutch, and so she had an accent. And we moved every year. So for us, that the moving, the expectations that you do your homework when you come home from school first, the not doing the big Christmas thing because all of the never really fitting in, we just got that from day one, and we had parents that didn't like, my mom was a PTA mother, just a student teacher thing in the United States. She didn't do that. She was like, I'll go to school but school is my kid's job and they need to do well. She wasn't baking cookies and she wasn't like living into that bubble, and she didn't fit because she wasn't from the United States. And it's funny, my mom also had a very sort of no nonsense kind of way of being. Like, if we would come running into the house and be like, oh, it hurts, or, he hit me or whatever. And she'd be like, well, I have a way to solve that. And, for whatever pain it was. And we would look at it and we're like, oh, okay, we're finally going to get special treatment. And my mom would be like, just put your leg up here and I'll chop off your ankle and then you won't feel the other pain anymore. My mom was like really no nonsense. And I think you would have to be with 4 kids and being a military spouse. So I think later, so for us, being yourself was just a given, right? And because you never fit in, because you moved all the time. So you had to get really comfortable with who you were really fast, because the next group of kids in the next town probably would have something to say about you for whatever reason. Which is probably why it made it easy, when I was like 9, that I saved my pocket money and bought Culture Club's first cassette tape. And all my friends, classmates, were all into Duran Duran. Mm-hmm. And Duran Duran did not appeal to me at all. I was crazy about Boy George, and I wanted to look like Boy George. And, and in conservative America, Navy-based America, you can only imagine, what that kind of thing. And, I was so proud of my Culture Club folders where my paper went in, my homework, and I was the only one in my class that carried that. And everyone was like, what's wrong with you? All of these kinds of things. But that really, when you don't fit in, sometimes you make the choice to try to fit in, right? You try to do everything more than what regular people would have to do. I hear a lot of that from people who are first generation, right? That their parents have said, you've got to do it better than everyone else. You've got to be,
raising the bar.
Yeah, you've got to raise the bar. Yeah. And I absolutely can empathize with that. Or you can go the other way, which is to be like, yeah, not interested, gonna do my own thing. And I'm fortunate that I have the DNA and the character that made me go the other way. It wasn't the same for all of us as kids. And And so that was a big sort of, when you realize you're going to change schools all the time and you're never going to fit in, then you really are like, well, then I'm going to like what I like and do what I want anyway, right? And then when I started my first year of high school, my dad was stationed in California, Southern California. Mm. When you talk about Los Angeles, Los Angeles County, Long Beach, where what everyone, that is not a healthy place for anybody.
Wait. This picture we have to draw a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming now.
Yeah.
And as soon as I start assuming,
yeah,
I can imagine that our listeners are also thinking about what do you mean. So before we jump into the next level,
yeah,
maybe draw a little bit the picture. What do you mean by Los Angeles and the beach, and what do you mean?
Yeah, so in suburban Los Angeles, the Kardashians are not a new phenomenon. Let's just put it that way, okay? Before reality TV came, maybe there was sort of less of for the rest of the world, the belief that this is what people did. But if you lived in suburban Los Angeles, everything was around looking a certain way, having the right clothes, fitting and having the right car, having that beach glow lifestyle, which really very few people actually have. But that's the sort of dominant theme, right? That's how you fit in. And I was 14 going on 15, and I had just come back. I'd come to the Netherlands for the summer to see my Oma and Opa, and my Oma had taken me to get a haircut before I went back to the United States. Yeah. Yeah. So I started ninth grade, which is your first year of high school, with a haircut that was basically, let's just put it this way, nobody was sure if I was a girl or a boy. Mm. It was just, it could have gone. It was, and this is the downside of going to somebody who cuts hair for senior citizens, and you take a 14-year-old and say, make it happen. So,
which in their mind they did.
Which they did, and fashion in Europe was very different than Southern California. So I start the new school year, and at that point I'm still kind of on the fence about, who am I into and what does that all look like? And I was really into skateboarders at that moment. And there was a skater that I really, really liked. And I'm, of course, super awkward at 14. And, I've got friends who are a little sort of alternative. And, as school messages go, it's like, oh, she really likes you or she's really interested in you. And it came back where they were like, is she a boy or a girl? And that was like, that moment, that question was like, that's devastating at 14 when you're like navigating the whole awkward social world. But it also was then a pivotal moment because I was like, well, I got this terrible haircut and the clothes and the music that I like don't fit either. So who cares? Just go with it. Just be who you are. And that is then at a moment where you're 15, you're 15. So you're building your identity and all of these things. So those were big sort of moments in the developing years where I really had that sort of like, this is just who I am and who I'm going to be. And I don't care. And you build a shell around that also, because then when you are doing that, the rest of the world is kind of like a little bit scared, because other kids don't dare that as much or whatever. So then your reputation starts to build, like, oh, she's a tough ass, and all the rest of it. And nobody knows that you have a job at the library shelving books, for $4.75 an hour. You do your homework every day when you come home straight from school, because that's how that's the expectation at home. and there's no junk food in your house, and you listen to punk, the most wild things that you get up to are the music that you listen to and the concerts that you sneak out to go to. But how some of them you're not even sneaking to because you're a Ramones fan and your mom is dropping you off with your friends in the VW bus so that you can go to the show. Right? But these are all things where nobody knows this really about you. They just think, oh, that girl she dresses crazy. She looks crazy. She has crazy music. Oh, and she's unfortunately scary smart. So, she must be kicking ass every night of the week. But I wasn't. But you carry that armor with you. And then you go through life carrying it, because then you find yourself in lots more situations where people you get very good at people not knowing you. Mm. But those were two really, really big moments. And other moments came later.
How well do the people around you know you now?
That is an answer where that would be, it depends. I know a lot about other people, I think there are people who would say, oh yeah, I know Caroline really well, or I know all of this stuff, but that isn't particularly true. I'm very open with what I feel and what I think and talking to people. But I think as far as like really how many people really know me very well, that's much smaller. Because I'm really good at asking questions. And then people kind of get sidetracked.
Is that a sort of defense mechanism?
I think depends on the phase in your life. Mm-hmm. So, or in my life. Mm-hmm. I think for a long time, I know for a long time in my 20s and 30s, that was definitely the defense mechanism. The walls were there for a reason. And my friendships were also really unequal. Mm. I was the friend that you could count on to get everything done. If you were in a jam, you got stuck somewhere, call Caroline. She'll get you out of it. But I never asked for help in return. And I never, and I made sure actually that I was never in a position that I would need to. So it was also, it was a mechanism that I kept in place. And then that changed to a degree because I did a lot of work on myself. And so then you take steps towards removing those walls and also those circumstances, right? I cleaned house in terms of friendships where everybody that I had a friendship that was in that dynamic, I let go of. And with the words, telling them why. Mm. And then I went for, I think, a good 5 or 6 years not having any friends at all. And not being anything other than a colleague. Mm. And now I'm in a space where there are people, I'm very direct about my friendship needs. And I tell people, this is what I'm looking for. This is who I am. And this is what I need from you back in order for it to be a friendship that I want to have. And if that's too much for you or not in alignment, then let me know, because I would rather know that. And then we'll still, we can be acquaintances and what have you. But I don't do half-ass And I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't want that in return.
What was the starting point for the letting go? Because I can imagine, knowing you now a little, that it didn't come easy to let go of friendships, and because you choose more and more for yourself.
Yeah.
And what you value. What was the starting point?
The starting point, I think, was realizing I had a friend who got really mad at me for something I didn't understand. Like the reaction just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I don't get why this is happening. And then I like started looking at it and looking at like trying, because I always try to find the root cause. I like to find the source of the problem. And so I started, digging through it, and I couldn't find anything. And then I started realizing, but these are all the ways that I've tried to keep this friendship going. And if I don't do this, then what I realized is actually I was walking around on eggshells around people. And that is not healthy by any stretch of the imagination. And then I realized, I started looking at it. I had a friend of mine who went away on an exchange semester and wasn't responsible enough to rent out her house before she left. So I paid her rent for the 6 months that she was in India on her exchange.
Of course.
And I didn't, and I went there every week and watered the plants. And then at the end of 6 months, she was like, I'm thinking I'm going to spend another year in Europe. And I was just like, and all of a sudden it was like, what are you doing? Why are you enabling this? What is wrong with you? What is it? And then I started seeing that all of these patterns. And then I realized that actually, every single relationship I had, friendship I had, followed almost these same lines. And then I felt I couldn't trust myself anymore. Then I was like, what kind of judge of character are you that this happens over? Really get it,
It gets first under your skin, in your head.
Yeah, and then it gets louder, and so then I went the other way, which is, okay, if you can't have healthy friendships, because you can see this pattern of what you have done, then you shouldn't have any friends at all, because you can't be trusted to keep that in balance. And that's how I ended up for like 5 years not having really any friends. And until this woman in my yoga class I was practicing Bikram 5 days a week. And I always wanted to be by the door because I wanted to feel like I could escape, right? I don't want to be stuck where I have to climb over people. I want to be closest to the door. And when I get there, I already have difficulty turning my brain off. So I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm busy deep in the no friends zone. And there was this woman who started coming to class, and she put her mat down next to me every day. And she made a lot of noise. She had a very disruptive energy. And she kept doing it. And she kept trying to talk to me. And I was like, shut up, leave me alone. Just go away. And then sometimes she'd bring her partner, and then there would be like two of them, and and finally I was just like, I have two choices here, because changing classes isn't helping, because then I used to go to the 4:00 in the afternoon class, then I switched to the 6:30, she would be there as well, and I was like, I can either quit yoga entirely or I can talk to her.
Speak up.
And so the next time she said something to me, I responded.
Did you explode, or did you still respond?
No, she was always like, hey, how are you doing? That was the worst part. If she had been like, the way you do yoga really makes me laugh or whatever. No, she was looking for contact. And I was like, stay away, holy water, garlic, everything I could think of, just stay away from me. And Jan is her name. And she is this fantastic woman who is so badass and so cool. And exactly what you see is what you get. But I didn't trust my own judgment enough to think that this person, could I be friends with this person? And so when I gave in and actually talked back to her, because I was like, she's never going to stop. It's the only way I'm going to get some peace and quiet in my, because I'm not giving up my space by the door. I could have done that. I could have solved it by going, further into the studio, or no, it's not giving up that space. And she was the first friend I made again after, and I'm really grateful for that. But that I could validate that I could trust my own judgment about people.
If you're talking about friendship now, what do you value most?
People that can create the space of me where I don't have to filter. I can dive in. And it's not always easy, because there's some people you start to sort of do the will we be friends dance, and then you discover that there's ways that they are being that make you react a certain way. So then the question is, do you ask for what you want or what you require, or do you cut? What do you do then? So for me, I always felt that I needed to be less in a friendship. I needed to be less over the top, less all of these things. And now, in the friendships that I search for, it's how much playing field can I have? How big is the playground that I can be in, right? I trust that you are resilient enough and will protect your own boundaries enough and are strong enough to let me be myself and you to be yourself.
This resonates with me personally. I've told you when you came in, I recently had my podcast recording with Kimo Kamara, and much of my life was in a journey of looking for, searching for, craving for unconditionality. And for me, unconditionality is about being and less about doing. Doing makes it in and on itself conditional. Being is for me sort of let it be, it can be, someone is being, and appreciate a human being for being the human. And listening to your story up until now, I'm wondering how much of who you are in this stage of your life are you not accepting?
I think that there is the amount, I can't put a number on it, but there's a fraction of yourself where you question constantly, right? Or not constantly, but when something doesn't work with someone, I am the first person that goes through, well, what did I do wrong? Where did I give the mixed message? What did I miss?
That's your default.
Yeah, and that's my default. I am learning that that's not always the case. That sometimes it entirely has to do with stuff I have zero impact or control over, and is just the other person and their way and whatever they have going on. It's hard for me when I don't have it then, but the nuance is difficult for me. So I am someone who would much rather have you say to me, you know what, Caroline, I don't like you anymore and I don't want to see you anymore. And that for me is much more easy to work with than not knowing why.
microaggressions.
Yeah, so I am not good with the whole ghosting thing. I am not good with people just disappearing. And I also, I mean, it's just like, it's like the Dutch saying, nee is ook een antwoord. No is also an answer. Just tell me, right? Be mad at me, be all of these things. Tell me, and we'll either figure out a way to get through it, or if we can't get through it, that's okay too, but at least we will have spoken it out with each other. There is still a very, a part of me that still right away goes internally, well, what did you do to cause this? Or, what could you have done differently? And then the worst part is then I start puzzling over it and looking at it from all the different angles. And it even though I know what I'm doing, and so that is something that I'm trying to create more understanding in my own head about, that you won't always know the answer. You can't always fix it. And it doesn't mean that you always did something wrong. People they're responsible for their own thing. You're not. That is that is something that, that is something that
work in progress.
It is a work in progress. It will be for the rest of my life. I know this, but I am at least cognizant of it now, right? So that, but it doesn't. The other angle of that is I don't ever want to stop trying. I know that was sometimes it's really possible that when you've been burned often enough, or whatever that level is for each person, that you then just don't want to have you don't want to take any risk anymore, for example, or seek any contact. And that is not me at all. I will continue. I make different mistakes every day. They're always new.
Are you okay with that?
Absolutely. I will continue to make them. I figured out early on that I would rather make new mistakes on a regular basis than live my life afraid to live. Right? Because the mistakes will teach me something in their own right, and they'll give me a story. Right? So, but the idea of being afraid to live, because freedom is also very important to me. The idea of being afraid to live because you're afraid to take that risk on that person or that thought or whatever, because you're taking all of that with you from the past and letting it hold you there, that to me is worse than the risk of being hurt. I know I will survive being hurt. I know it won't feel good. I know I'll question myself ad nauseum and the people around me ad nauseum until I get to a place of acceptance with it, but I will survive it. Right? And the idea of not taking risks because you're afraid of being hurt is not something that I can. It doesn't fit with me.
Not anymore? Or it did?
Not ever.
Not ever.
Not ever. I think earlier it was more of a feeling of, you don't get to tell me what to do. And
used to rebellious.
And caged in that, rather than the emotional awareness that says, I don't want to miss a moment, and I don't want to be trapped in that fear. I don't want to live in fear, right? So it has shifted from, that armor sort of outward. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me, to the I don't want to live my life that way. I don't want to live with that kind of fear.
No. Can you imagine what a process and what a journey?
Well, I'm not 20 anymore, so it's taken me a while. And I'm glad for it.
I'm glad for it, yeah.
I'm glad for it.
Maybe a question that pops up. What if you were 20 with the lived experience of now? What would you whisper in your ear?
I would say keep taking the risks. They will be worth it. And, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, would there have been something that I would have changed per se, but actually I wouldn't, because that's also why why I stand where I stand now, right? It's not that other experiences might not have been equally valuable or brought me other things, but the things that I have experienced have brought me to this place, and I am good. I am with the place that I'm in. I like the place that I'm in.
What place are you in?
I like the place that I am a middle-aged woman that does not act my age by any stretch of the imagination. And I like the place that I do what I believe in, and I am not shy about my principles and what I stand for. And I like the place where I don't feel worried about the judgment of others.
What a freedom that must give.
It is.
That feeling of freedom.
It is something that I think we all need, but we don't listen to per se, or we maybe put it down, or say it's, or just try to quiet it. Right? I always find it interesting that, like in culturally in this country, the opportunity to explore who you are, what you're interested in, what you are all about, sort of can only come as a result of if you've been productive in the system, right? That it's a work-related burnout or what have you. And I think, well, we all know that nothing is ever a single factor. But also, what if we created those moments all throughout our lives, that to be questioning, to be curious about who you are, to take on the beliefs that you have and to explore that. If we created room for that continually through our lives, what would the benefits be? Right? I know that my values will not change. How I identify throughout my life will change, because there's always new sides that I am discovering. And I think that's good. I don't want to be bored. But I don't want to be, and I don't want to be boring. And it's like, so I think that being open to who you are today may not be the person who you are tomorrow per se. And that's totally okay. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to have, I mean, I know a lot of people like structure, and there's comfort in knowing, having it planned out. But
sort of linear.
The reality is life is not linear.
No. Isn't it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we often try to make it linear. Because those are the systems that we feel comfortable with, or that society feels comfortable with. But I don't think life is linear.
There are multiple times in our conversation that I hear the word systems. We will dive a little bit into the concept of systems. Before we do that, you make me quite a few times remember a book, Brave Not Perfect. Did you read it? Brave Not Perfect.
Who is the author?
Reshma Shoni. She is a tech, accomplished tech entrepreneur.
Who founded...
yes, Culture Code. No,
yes.
The
Girls Who Code. Yeah. Girls Who Code, the organization. Yeah. I have read some of her books. I have not read that
Brave
one.
Not Perfect is really something which make me think about you. I decided long time ago to buy 3 books because I have 3 daughters, and they get it at their 16th. Yeah. So to be conscious about societal expectations on the one hand, and about who they are, and that they are free to express and be who they want to be, and that it's not about expectations, obligations, and opinions of others, but that it's about finding who they truly are and be proud of that, and celebrate their personality. Yeah. And so it made me think about you, and that's the bridge to what you're doing right now, also professionally, because there's also a strong link to, I believe, to the fuel where we talked about, and what you are doing professionally. So help us out. What are you up to? What are you helping? Who are you helping?
Well, that depends on who you ask. I like to say that by day, I'm doing good, like with To Do Good Only. And then at night, I'm the founder of We Make Trouble. So that's like, but they're related.
Okay, let's unpack here first, the first part.
So when I had my first company,
Yeah.
which was the Do Good Only company, we reskilled anybody who wanted to learn into data and IT. And then we hired them because we discovered that just reskilling someone isn't enough in the Dutch labor market. They need work experience. And the further you are from the Henk Jan stereotype, the harder it is for you to find a job in IT. I'm just going to call it out like it is. It's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of motivation. It's a lack of forward thinking in the employment market and lots of other systems that come into play. And with the Do Good Only company, one of the ways that we finance the ability to hire our community was to build products and services for women identified founders, social impact founders, and, things that were busy for the public good. Because their IT companies are not interested in that group at all. And we came from the perspective that if we can help these companies build and grow, they will also be good places who will hire our people, right, in the future. And then you have inclusive teams in the startup world from the beginning, rather than waiting for some big initiative to reverse engineer it, or when we get our Series A funding, we'll look into that, all the reasons to that. Okay, so it worked but couldn't scale, which is how after 6 years I had to take it into bankruptcy. But in that time, everything has been a lesson for something else. So everybody landed from the Do Good Only company except for me, because I was the director. So you have to finish out the bankruptcy process, which is, I learned a lot. But also, I made a conscious choice. Well, you're not eligible for like unemployment or anything like that because you've been the director for all those years. So it was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I have to earn a living, right? Because I have to. But nobody really wanted to hire me, and which was also affirmation. And I also realized I am not going to give up this work that I'm doing, but I got to find a smarter way to do it. I've got to find a way to do it that scales and that now I'm not carrying all of the responsibility. Because let me make it clear, we were not subsidized. So everything, we bootstrapped 6 years.
Out of own pocket.
Yeah. And hence the reason also why I had to start earning a living, for lack of a better term. So when I started To Do Good Only, which of course is a play on DGO2, I was like, what can I do knowing that these markets, I know that this works, but how can I do this differently? And so I started, because my biggest resource is my brain, I started working for women identified founders and social impact as hire my brain on a stick, and I will bring in diverse talent from community groups that I know, and I'll bring them into the project and we'll work together, and then I'll leave and you have a resource. Mm-hmm. So much smaller, right? Because it's much more one-on-one or one-on-two work or things like that, but still creating those bridges and impact. And I like that, and that's what I do during the day.
But
but I was like, it's got to be bigger. So what happens? Why do we not have more women identified founders getting to the next level in the startup space? Well, because we know that they often tend to do everything themselves because it's a shortage of capital and everything else. And I got all of these people who are really talented, but don't match, for whatever reason, the ridiculous 1950s job declaration list, but they've got talents and skills, and some of them are in companies that are not treating them like they should be. Oh, well, what if we could bring that together? And that's how We Make Trouble came to be. The night job, where the idea is that we are an ecosystem that focuses on building and sourcing from women-led ventures. So we do that in two ways. One, we have the hackathons, where we bring together founders starting or scaling and pair them with a team of inclusive skills owners to help them get to that next step in that weekend, whether that's a go-to-market strategy, whether that's a landing page, whether that's a new data backend, whatever. So we do that, and I make it sound easier than it is. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's meant
the curating, right? Curating is a lot of work.
And bringing it all together and matching everyone and doing the workshops in advance so that
vetting everything.
So you can get the most out of that weekend, with the goal that after that weekend, that team may stay together and continue to work further. And we support that because, again, we know that capital is not flowing fast enough to the hands of women with what we call the Seeds of Trouble grants. So every team gets then a grant to decide how they will spend afterwards. So maybe it's co-working time, maybe it's web hosting, maybe it's dev time, something that will help you keep going.
But they do become eligible for a grant?
Everybody who's at the hackathon, the teams, yes, every team. Oh, so we don't make them go through, fill out a 20-page form to get your... No. It's like, I send out an email 4 weeks after the hackathon is over because we crowdfund for them. And we fund it also with a portion of the ticket sales. And we say, okay, this is the amount that is being split by the teams. It's your share is this. All I need from you is an email saying what you'd like to spend it on, because we'd like to know so we can go back and report this is the things that really stand in the way. And I need the bank account information that it needs to go to. That's simple. None of this 60 pages for 2,500 euros or whatever. And it's not huge amounts of money. I'm working on that, but it's something. It's literally, it will buy you a year's worth of web hosting, or in this case, somebody's going to spend it to have a UX designer work on their landing page. So I'm going into the fact that if you have enough brains to start a business, you have enough brains to decide what you want to spend it on. For We Make Trouble, the default is that women are taken seriously. It's that simple, right? And so there's that part of it. And then the other aspect of it is the platform, which is I spend a tremendous amount of time trying to source from women-led businesses and businesses that lead with values. And I thought, well, what if not everybody wants to spend as much time as I do on this, but what if I bring this together where they can be found in between the hackathons? So let's say you need a designer, or you need a dev, or you need something, and you want to hire a woman to do that. On the We Make Trouble platform, you can find these people. Or you want to buy a product or service from a particular women-led product, like whether it's a meditation app or what have you, you can find that. And so the goal is, if we put the best kind of capital is the kind that comes into your pocket as revenue.
It's a healthy thought.
Because that's capital nobody can take away from you.
No. And it's also the proof that you're delivering value that people are willing to pay for. And
it's up to, and it doesn't take equity. It doesn't take, you're not having to spend I know a lot of people who've gone the funding route, and they're continually having to seek more funding for every cycle, because that's what no one tells you either. They tell you how to prepare for funding, to pitch for funding, but they don't tell you that every time you get funding, you're basically going to have to start looking for the next level of funding. And what happens if one of your investors wants out early, right? So the best kind of revenue, the most sustainable kind of capital is revenue.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I want to do. And because I don't have the energy or the resources to change all of the inequality in the existing capital systems. And I'm never going to. And all the organizations that talk about putting more hands in the capital in the hands of women, actually, most of them are putting more gates in place. And this is my way of making it happen. And everything we do also has a membership fee on it, because women's work is undervalued. And I want other women to be able to earn a living. I want this woman to be able to earn a living from the work that she does. And I want other women to be able to do that. Right? So that's how, and all of this, of course, comes through the experiences that I've had in all of the different career fields I've also had, but also as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur who went bankrupt, as an employer, as all of these things. And so you get to take all of these ingredients and you turn it into something new.
You mentioned the word system.
Yeah.
Quite some time during our conversation. What is the change you would love to see with your system, your ecosystem?
I would like other people to see what is also possible. I think a big part of the problem that we face, aside from the larger systemic ones, is that we assume that we do not have any power. That we assume that how it is the way it has to stay. We do have power. We have power every time we spend, right? We make choices where we do that. We have power when nothing, I often feel, it's like people often say, well, we're pushed towards this way. I'm like, you're not pushed towards this way. You're making a choice because it fulfills your comfort need. And that's also a choice. But let's be honest about it. Right? So what I would like is, for me, if we make trouble inspires others to also go and create their own. That's what's important to me. Right? That you can come back and say, I want to set this up in my community. How do I do that? Can you talk me through that? Can you help me do this? Because I think that I get really nauseated when I hear about how women need more confidence. Women need more this. We need to learn. We need to be mentored so that we can become successful. We need to do all of these things. And it basically makes me throw up in my mouth. And
Why?
Because it becomes the narrative. And it's not my narrative. And it's not the narrative of the line of strong women I come from and the strong women that I know. We don't need to we're not missing confidence, or it's human nature to be lacking confidence. Any entrepreneur that tells you that they are 100% confident all the time is lying, right?
It's a red flag to invest in.
But we see it as something that, I was in Brussels 2 weeks ago for a conference on women's entrepreneurship, supporting women's entrepreneurship. And of the 3 years that they've been working on this action group, one of the 5 pillars is going to be building more confidence in women. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. That's not the biggest problem that women's entrepreneurship is facing. So we are in danger of blindly participating in a narrative that actually its definition does nothing for us and maintains the status quo.
So to try to grasp what you just shared,
Yeah.
in my words, don't attack me please for it, but by what you're offering and doing, you're trying to flip the narrative.
I'm creating a space where it's okay to make trouble. And I want you to feel that it's okay to make trouble, because we feel more comfortable when we stand in solidarity, right? And standing on your own up against the usuals is frightening and intimidating. But if you're in a space where there's other people who are also willing to get in trouble, then suddenly it becomes a space of belonging. It becomes a space where there is room for us together to cause trouble. Remember, that's going back to the beginning. It's one person saying to another, I don't agree with that idea either. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? We are going to make trouble together. And for some people, it's a turnoff. And that's okay. That's a natural filter. There are people who my message does not resonate with. And I am okay with that because I don't need to be the only one. I think that's also another thing. We're very focused on you have to be this way in order to work on this problem. But the reality is the problem doesn't have a single cause. It's a multi-cause problem. So create the space for people to do what they do best. I'm never going to give workshops on how to get ready for pitching for investment because there's plenty of people who will do that. What am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that you have workshops with people who will teach you how to build a financial plan for your business so that you know how to maximize for your cash flow and you are your own CFO until you can hire one or what have you. And one isn't better than the other or exclude the other, but it's like, I'm not interested in, and I think that's what makes it interesting. I'm not interested in being part of the crowd. I'm not interested in the approval of others because I know that the people that come into We Make Trouble, the message of what we're doing and that idea, that curiosity that they have of what does this mean and where do we go, that's the single greatest motivator. And the people that will benefit are the ones who will come through the door. It's my job to create that door. It's my job to create that space where people can come to. But it's your job to decide to come through it. And it isn't for everyone.
You've mentioned also that you're working on bigger grants.
Yeah.
So if you can share one critical ask to the audience in order to speed that process, what would be the critical ask?
I would say, since We Make Trouble works with the way we fund our grants is through a portion, 10% from everything that we do. To get in, the best way to do that is to have us deliver a service to you. Have us, if we can do stuff on site, we can create a hackathon for you. We can do all of those things. Or we have such a talented pool of people. Hire us to help you deliver that project because we'll deliver it with our community and automatically the funds that come out of it after everyone gets paid go into those grants, the Seeds of Trouble grants, right? Because it's not one of the things I struggle with in this country is that the belief is if you're doing good, it has to be subsidized. But I believe that you can just be making impact and doing things the right way through just the way you do business.
Through revenue. Yeah.
And so and I want it to be an exchange of value. I want somebody to say, we needed this and this amazing team from We Make Trouble delivered it for us. And I have access now to talented people that I never thought I would meet because I don't hang out in those networks, right? I stay in my bubble. So what's one of the things that we're working on for this year is is actually formalizing the ability to hire a team from the community to deliver your project.
Is that part clear enough on your website?
No.
All right. Because
working on it.
Yeah, we're going to share in the show notes the website.
Okay.
And it will be interesting because if it's a critical ask and if this is something you would love to offer more, then so I didn't look it up. So it's not. But I thought, hey, is it clear enough on the website? Because I think it's a competitive advantage. It's an advantage. It's a beautiful service. But how to make it easy, understandable, digestible for people to, in order to say, hey, press the button. Yes, here we go.
And that's what I'm working on right now.
It's
because actually this came out of the last hackathon in February because my brain is always going. And I was like, the magic that happens in those hackathons and those weekends, what is created for those founders is amazing, right? But I was like, how can I make this longer? Right? How can we deliver more value continually and create more opportunity? And one of my day job clients had a project, and she said, Caroline, can we just hire some of the people from the We Make Trouble community? And she's like, can't you just sort of also coordinate all of that and be the CTO on it and everything else? And that got me thinking, if this person is asking for it, how could we turn this into? Because there
might be a market.
It might be a market because it doesn't have to only. The thing I learned early is that the Netherlands is too small of a market to rely on. And so being able to offer that across borders already is something that could create opportunity for more and more women. And when women's income rises, then it has ongoing effects through the community, right? Not only when women's income, but primarily when women's income rises. That's when you start to see significant changes in community.
I have to be honest. I'm struggling a little bit with We Make Trouble.
Yeah.
What is then the trouble?
The trouble is that the change that we're making. Because we are doing things, like I said, the default at We Make Trouble is that women are taken seriously. And so we invite you to come in and to bring your wild ideas and to take those chances, right? Often what happens at the hackathons, our hackathons are different than traditional hackathons in that sense. The participants the skills owners choose the founder they want to work with. So they don't come in with a team from a company where they're all competing for a prize and they just change the skin based on the theme of the hackathon. You literally are looking at these founders and what they're building or what they want to build and saying, that resonates with me. That mission resonates with me, right? That's where I'm going to align to. It's a values alignment. And so they're self-selecting for each other, which makes it then even more powerful. But also there's all of that room to experiment. So you have somebody who may be a data engineer, but they're super curious about what goes into all of the business decisions. And we have created an environment where all of those risks can be taken. We encourage it. And that is also something that's powerful because then you are finding also people where maybe you'll find your next role. Maybe it will be with that founder, maybe not. But we're cutting through the noise. We're cutting through all of the walls that stand in the way when you're different. And to be clear, everyone is welcome at our events, regardless of how you identify. What is key for us is, do you support the creation of women-led ventures?
So also men
Yeah.
are allowed to come.
Absolutely.
All right, because then
Occasionally they do.
Count me in. As you know a little, I'm a very supporter of a more equal world.
Yeah.
And that's also why I'm love to help aspiring, impact-driven female founders find clarity. And that's what I do professionally.
I know. I saw the changes to your website. Congratulations.
Yeah, I did. Because it became very obvious. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a mathematician or a scientist to see, okay, 95% of my podcast guests, women.
Yeah.
95% of my coaching business, women. I'm into advisory boards, 100% female-led.
Yeah.
75%, 80% of community support, female-led and female-focused. Yeah. I was like, all right, but I'm still communicating founders and leaders. And I thought there is something, and I'm a proud father of 3 beautiful daughters. Yeah. I'm honoring the gift from my birth mother, who gave me 3 gifts of life. Yeah. And we will elaborate in my personal podcast about those 3 gifts. So I thought, okay, let's Michiel, this is what you have to do here, and what I love doing.
It's what you were built for.
Yeah, I guess, and by that I truly feel, and that's why it resonates so much. And it took me five decades on this planet, but to discover that the inherited life force of my birth mother, of my only mother, of my mother, it really, 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 really gives me the feeling that let's pay it forward.
Yes.
Let's move the needle. So yep. I would love to join in whatever role you want to put me in there. Yep. I can be the assistant. I can get you everything, the drinks and the atmospherics and the energy, as you know.
I know.
But I would love to be a little bit more involved in and get to understand, hey, what's working? Why is we make trouble? What makes we make trouble?
Yeah. You would be more than welcome.
Thank you very much.
Because I think that's also what you said, about carrying your birth mother with you and the energy of your mother. I think that's something that, if we're aware of it, I know, my mother died too soon. We carry we carry them with us, which also then accelerates the need to be doing something, right? Because we are, sometimes people are like, well, why do you have so much? I'm like, well, actually I kind of have 3 people that I'm like carrying everything for. And I feel that I need to make the most of their contributions and to honor them, but also because they're gifts. And like the same from what you feel, it's not just you, it's you and, right? And the ands who are part of you. And seen and unseen.
Seen and unseen.
Yeah.
And create a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Caroline, I noticed you're getting emotional. And sorry, not sorry for...
Don't be sorry.
I am not.
Okay, good.
For sure.
Good.
What do you believe? Your mother passed away. Can she still hear you?
Yes.
So if that's what you believe in, what would be the thing you would love to say to her?
I would tell her, I'm still mad at you because I miss you. But I know you're still there. And I'm so relieved that you were my mom. Because I would never be the person I am today, literally, if, my mom had not given birth and carried me. And also, my mother gave me the room to be my multicolored, crazy, weird self. And her examples of all of that have also made it possible for me to do the things that I've done. And to take those chances and to take those risks and to stand for those principles. And she was my best friend. Not always. But once I grew up, shall we say. You know, and
so you're now a grown up.
I'm
yeah.
partially.
Okay.
I represent a grown up 50% of the time. It used to be at your age, not your shoe size, but then you move to Europe and your shoe size takes a different form than the US scale. And then it was like, oh, I can't really get away with that one anymore, you know? So, but, most of all, I would say thank you to my mother for being who what I think still is.
She is. She lives inside of you.
Yeah. And in my house.
And you can feel
occasionally.
That. Yeah.
You know.
The energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you most proud of? If you look back at the stage of your life where you're now, what are you most proud of about yourself? You see what happens, eh?
Yeah, I do. And I'm trying to think, actually, the thing that I think I'm the most proud of right now, and that might change, because again, we're constantly in motion, but I'm really proud of the fact that almost 2 years ago, when the bankruptcy happened, that it didn't happen. I filed for it. Let's call it what it is. Mm-hmm. That I made the choice in that time, in the midst of everything, to do the work emotionally that I needed to grieve it. It was funny because I started the whole process with, I just need to get some tools to learn how to cope with my bankruptcy, you know, so I'm emotionally, you know, because I'm troubleshooting oriented. So just give me some tools and I'll take care of it from there. And
you hack your way
I'll
through
hack my way
it.
through it. Exactly. I just need the tools. And I think that that was a pivotal moment in making that decision where I very much had a very stern conversation with myself and said, if you don't do this work now, you will end up hiding it for the rest of your life. And it will haunt you, you know? So face it, grieve, feel. Do not start a new company 3 days later, because I was already like, you know, go, run, build. Feel. And in this process, you just learn whatever you're meant to learn. It's also when I started auto mechanics. So I think if I would say at this moment, that is one of the things, because it was hard, but it's brought me so much. But it was hard to make the priority, also to make the priority, to make the choice for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say, I'm actually going to give this the time that it needs. And let me be clear. I mean, I didn't start 3 days later. I started 60 days later. But, you know, for me, that was considering I've only been unemployed in my life for 5 days.
Yeah, so it's very long. 60 days.
60 days
is 20 times more. 20 times more.
For some, that's a year in other people's lives, right? You know, but that's what I every week, still, I talk to a grief counselor who, we've long since passed the give me the coping tools. And I asked her, how did you not laugh in my face when, you know, when I asked you for that? And she's like, you're not the first person, you know, that has a solutions mindset that she's encountered. And doing that work, that's what I am most proud of. Because I actually made a choice for myself. I made a choice above and beyond everything else to say, I'm going to face it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to deal with all of the emotions and the discomfort. And it isn't just, it's the bankruptcy was the most recent in a long series of losses, right? That I'm really good at compartmentalizing and putting away and just keep going.
Yeah, but compartmentalizing is not going through it.
No, it's compartmentalizing it and saying, I'll deal with it later. And my father, who is still alive, when we're not particularly close, although it's better now, he is a veteran. And I have seen what it means to not be able to do the work or to get the care that you need at the time that something has happened. And he's going to be 80 this year, and he is haunted by, but he doesn't have the words for it. And I didn't want to have, assuming I have an old age, like, to that point, I didn't want that. And my mother had been interned in the Japanese camps in Indonesia. So my mother also had a strong trauma background that nobody talked about. And then when she got sick at the end of her life, suddenly she couldn't outrun it anymore. And so from those, we decide what we take with us. And I knew that if I didn't do something now at this stage with this latest thing, then I would just be compartmentalizing it until I couldn't outrun it.
You say do, if I don't do. May I rephrase and see if you are agreeing with me?
Okay.
If I'm not asking for help.
Yeah, if I'm not asking for help, if I'm not asking for learning to understand, if I'm not asking for a voice outside of my head instead of the voices inside.
The internal dialogue, the inner critic, and so forth. How do you also have an inner cheerleader?
Not as vocal as the inner critics, but the inner critics have gotten better.
Beautiful. We can go on for hours. I truly love this conversation. Circling back to our theme.
Yeah.
If you look at the whole journey, and the theme is honoring truth through rebellion. Since whole life is a work in progress, how far did you come with honoring truth through rebellion? It's not about figures and numbers.
No, it's not. But I'm at a point where I couldn't imagine it otherwise. So I get frustrated sometimes when I feel like my rebellion hasn't resulted in enough, right? But I'm also learning to accept the fact that sometimes just the act of rebellion is going to have to be enough, right?
In and on itself.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to change the outcome, or you're not going to be, or you're not going to be. Sometimes just speaking up is enough. You have to find that is enough, rather than whereas normally I would put the entire sort of like, well, not only must you speak up, that person must change their mind, they must not do that anymore, they must do, all of the rest of it. But sometimes just speaking up already, it's simply the act of rebellion that matters most. Not how big it is or what the results are. It's simply the act. And for me to learn to be comfortable with that, again, it's a work in progress, but it is a way of also shutting down the critics, the inner critics, and all of the rest of it, and finding the acceptance with it is enough.
You are enough.
That I am enough.
That you matter.
I do not have to. The only person who's expecting me to solve all of these problems is me, right?
It sounds to be honest, it sounds almost, let me help you here.
Yeah.
It sounds almost entitled.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Are you
fair.
an entitled person?
I have a lot of privilege.
Yeah, that's something different.
And
it depends what you do with
and
it.
Thinking that for a long time, I felt that other people had it often worse than I did, right? Because of circumstances, life circumstances, or whatever, which would place their needs on a higher level of priority and their feelings and everything else. And it goes back to also, in a way, that dynamic of being the friend that always solves everything, being the problem solver. I placed a lot of value on the identity of the problem solver because it's a shield. It's a shield that keeps you from looking at what's really going on, right? And that is entitlement. That is the sense of saying, I have the luxury,
sort of the savior syndrome,
to distract myself from my own chaos that I don't want to look at or face or feel.
Discomfort,
and let me help you with yours. You know, and in doing, like, to get out of that, you kind of have to decolonize your own thinking.
Ooh.
in that sense.
That's in and of itself a podcast working, right?
Exactly. But I mean, you have to look yourself
decolonize yourself.
You do, in a sense, because you carry, we don't talk about it, but there's even while we may say otherwise, most of it, we carry the constructs of white supremacy and ideology and all of these things within ourselves. And and it's in every layer of a movement, right? You look at, and we can, on one hand, identify with things like, well, I am this, so there's no way I can be that. But that's not true, because all of us at different rungs have benefited and have been hurt by, right? So but there is that, it is there. It's all of these things that we don't want to talk about or don't want to acknowledge, or where does the benefit that, I have family that is, it's like my mother was seen as not Dutch enough, but they were Dutch enough compared to people who were more Indonesian than Dutch. Do you see what I mean? So it's all of these different layers. So you have to get, and I studied American Indian Studies for my bachelor. Talk about having to face yourself, and it was good because I needed to, because I needed to also understand, who am I, where do I come from, and what can I do, not to make amends per se, because again, that comes into that savior, the concept of I will get you out of your mess, poor soul. But coming into, this is the place where I'm at in my life at this moment. These are the tools and the things that I have. How can I be utilizing them in the best way possible? And that is something that is a long, complicated process. Also, because you start to look at yourself and be like, well, why should I have this if someone else has that, doesn't have that? And all of those kinds of things. So you really have to be really straightforward with yourself and be like, look, this is what you have going for you. So how do you spend it? How do you make sure that you're putting it in in good service, in good trouble?
I think that's a perfect end for our first conversation. I would love to invite you in the future for a next episode, because we can deep dive easily into. There are so many. I had to resist in this conversation. I had to resist to ask. I have so many questions still left and curious and to unpack. So, Caroline, for now, thank you very much for our conversation.
You also, thank you for creating the space. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I thank you very much. Thank you for listening and for giving this conversation your attention. If something in it resonated, a thought, a feeling, a quiet shift, let it settle in its own way. There's no need to make sense of it all right now. Journeys of Empowerment is more than a podcast. It's a space where stories meet us differently and where something small can ripple into something meaningful over time. And if this episode connected with you, you might pass it on to someone who could use it. That's how these conversations move forward, gently, from one person to another. You can follow along if you'd like to keep listening. It helps these stories reach those who are still searching for clarity, direction, or a sense of belonging. For now, just take a breath, see what remains within you.